Hello, I'm Mark Staples, and I'm the moderator for a continuing series of legislative candidate interviews of the candidates vying to go to the Montana legislature starting in January 2009. This series is brought to you by Bresnan Communications, the Montana Cable Telecommunications Association, and your hometown MCAT. This morning, a gentleman who I believe served on the original board for the Public Access Channel and is running, he's the incumbent and running for re-election to House District 92 in Missoula, Robin Hamilton. Robin, thank you for joining us. And start out with giving the viewing audience in Missoula and your would-be constituents, or your current constituents and the constituents you hope to continue to represent, some of your personal background.
Well, Mark, I'm a fourth-generation Montanan. My great-grandfather built a house up the Rattlesnake. It's still there, and my cousin still lives there. It's at the corner of Duncan Drive and Lolo Street. And it's a pleasure to knock on doors in that area because some of the folks remember my family. However, I was raised primarily in the Flathead Valley, graduated from high school from there, and then came to university for my first degree, and then started a teaching career. I taught in public schools for 32 years, in addition to some side jobs like smoke jumping, washing dishes in a restaurant. And along the way, I picked up 2 more degrees from the University of Montana. And then after I retired in '02 from Hellgate High School, there was an open seat which comprised much of the Rattlesnake, and I was urged to run, and I won.
So for winning, you get to go to Helena and slug it out for 4 months each year. This year you're going to go, right now as we speak, it's October 1st as we're taping this, and we're in the middle of this is no surprise or disclosure to anyone, we're in the middle of a unprecedented financial meltdown at the national level. And we can't help but talk about it, given that that's what's on everybody's lips. But specifically, I'd like your thoughts as a Montana legislator and a Montana legislative candidate is, are we going to get hit by this? If not, what can we do to make sure that we don't? How do you see Montana's economy, and what can we do going forward to safeguard our economy?
Well, we're certainly nervous, and we're all watching what's happening on the national stage. I had the news on this morning, and the Dow was down only about 60 points, and it looks like the Senate is going to vote on a bailout package of some kind, probably after the market closes. There seems to be quite a bit of confidence that something will happen. However, Montana is surprisingly insulated from the biggest parts of that meltdown. Our local banks are solvent. They're loaning money. If you need to buy a house now, it's a great time because the interest rate is low. If there is a huge crash, however, we can't stay insulated forever. So we do have to watch, we have to pay attention. But in the short term, Montana is in surprisingly good shape.
Is there anything that, with regard to our economy, that you believe is the essence of, if Montana is currently vibrant, is there anything that you consider the essence of keeping it vibrant and forward going?
There are some things that we need to do. Montana, as a comparatively small economy, and right now one of the strongest parts is our oil and gas, and that's continuing to hold us up. We may have some money to spend when we get to Helena. But we need to make sure we have a world-class educational system, because when businesses relocate to Montana or expand in Montana, one of the first things they ask their realtors are, where's the good schools? I need my kids to go to a good school. They also ask about good health care. Well, in Missoula we have a Cadillac of a health system, but we're striving very hard right now to make sure rural Montana has the same kind of care that we have in the cities. So we're talking about several initiatives to probably incentives to get young doctors to relocate or originally locate in eastern Montana or places that are poorly served. Things like that include loan forgiveness programs. We'd also like to increase the number of slots we have in the WWAMI program, which puts people at the University of Washington. So we, come January, we'll all be paying very close attention.
Right now, we have, I think it was yesterday at the Legislative and Transportation, or the Revenue and Transportation Interim Committee, it was estimated that we have a $300 million surplus. But the very things you spoke about, gas and natural gas and oil, which ironically have driven the individual consumer crazy, but have put a surplus in Montana's the overall pockets, that could change. If we do have a surplus going into the session, and given that you want to incentivize certain things, how much of it can we afford to spend? Do we spend any of it? Do we give some of it back? Do we invest it? If so, in what? I mean, if we are fortunate enough to have that, what are we going to do with it?
Well, Mark, well, 2 weeks ago it looked better than it looks now. One of the things we're nervous about when we get to Helena is whether this potential meltdown has an effect on our retirement programs. Because although our banking industry is healthy, our entire retirement programs, the teachers' retirement and the public employees' retirement systems, are invested widely, wisely, I think, diversely, but they will be hit if there is a continued meltdown. We put over $100 million in the teachers last session and $50 million in the PERS to make them actuarially sound, which is required by the Constitution. So we're terribly nervous about that potential effect. If we do have some money in the bank when January comes around, we will be looking at all those options. One of the things that we think is important for Montana is to have what's called a rainy day savings account. Smart businesses, smart homeowners, smart individuals have a savings account because even though there are good times, you can be guaranteed that there will be tough times. Now, in the last session, we left $80 million in the ending fund balance, but it wasn't technically, legally a savings account. We would like to get that accomplished this time. And whether it's for forest fires or bad times or an economic downturn, we'd really be smart to have a pretty good balance there. It's called a rainy day fund. The education funding is going to continue to be a problem. We're back in court. And we will have to fund education adequately, and from my point of view, more than adequately. Again, I'd like to see a world-class education system, K-12. We managed to hold university tuition at zero last 2 years. I'd like to be able to do it again. I'm not sure it's possible. And we need to fund K-12 more than we have in the last 4 years. But the last 4 years came after 16 years of weak funding, and we couldn't make it up all at once. So that will take a certain amount of money. We may be able to give some back. I don't know. We'll see in January.
If we do need more money for education, are you of a belief that there are any taxes that need to be increased, or are there entities that aren't taxed enough? If the plaintiffs are successful in the lawsuit in Helena that claims that the efforts in the last sessions were not enough, and one of the quotes from one of the leaders of that group is that their belief is that adequate funding could be as much as $600 million more a year on top of what is already spent. If the legislature, by consensus or by court order, it chooses to increase school funding substantially, where do we get the money and without raising taxes, or do we have to raise some taxes on certain segments of the Montana economy?
Well, I've heard the figure 600 million myself, and frankly, it's not there. We will have to do the best we can for schools. But one of the keys to the funding suit is that while we raised the amount of money to schools and we changed the formula a little bit, we didn't actually figure out the cost of a quality education, and that was part of the lawsuit. We figured we defined a quality education, but we didn't do the figures. Actually, the school interim committee ran out of time, and we didn't say, okay, this is an educational program that meets the definition of quality. Now, how much does it cost? And that's the piece that's missing. I think we need to go back to work and adjust the formula some more. Now, one of the changes we did make was to put more money into the qualified educator entitlement. That is to say, instead of funding per pupil, which has historically been most of the funding, say a school in Rudyard, Montana with 12 kids in the 3rd and 4th grade loses 3 kids. If the money that those 3 kids brought to the school system disappears, that school system hurts terribly because they still have to have the teacher and the classroom for that 3rd and 4th grade. So we put more money into the qualified educator portion, so the money follows the teacher, not the student. That has helped small schools. It has helped schools like Missoula with declining enrollment. And then we also added 3-year budget averaging, which makes it less of a drop-off for schools with declining enrollment. I look forward to the dialogue. I think there is significant work left to do on schools, and I hope we have some money to be able to do it.
The cities, and I believe, I can't remember if the counties are involved in this or not, I should check, but I know the cities are, a coalition of cities, is formulating a proposal to take to the legislature based on the proposition that while the state has had good times of late, it has not manifested itself down at the city level, and they have obligations for which they do not have the funding sources. They would like to bring to the voters of their individual communities the opportunity to tax individual items such as prepared meals. Normally this is what they could devolve down to. Prepared meals, alcohol by the drink, and lodging. When everything else is exempted, that's at the end of the day normally what's left in recreational activities. If that is brought to the legislature, and it will be, will you support the bill to give communities the right to local option taxing authority? Not right now, only resorts have it, or resort communities. This would give every community in Montana that right. Do you support that concept, Robin?
Mark, it depends on how the bill's written. I used to go back to West Yellowstone in the early 80s for the huge season-ending cross-country ski race. And at that time of year, when there were still piles of snow and puddles 3 feet deep, the streets of West Yellowstone were a mess. And 15 years later, after that resort tax, they're beautiful. We have curbs, sidewalks, streetlights, infrastructure. It has made an incredible change. Whitefish, Montana, where I taught for 5 years, has done similar things with their resort tax, and it hasn't destroyed local business. So I will consider it very seriously. I know our mayor, John Engen, wants it for Missoula because we don't have enough money in the city to continue to keep up our infrastructure. And it depends on how you write it. First of all, it's local option. The citizens of a city or a county may vote it for themselves. If they don't want it, they don't get it. And you can also write the bill different ways. For instance, one proposal that I particularly liked was to take 2% of that sales tax and return it to property owners to mitigate their property tax. So yes, I will consider it very seriously. It depends on how it's written.
With the time we have left, I've brushed over these broad subjects and hoped it gave you enough territory to express some of the things you're most interested in. But I'd like to give you an opportunity now in closing to give impetus to specific ideas that you want to take to Helena, things, unfinished business that you might have as an incumbent, or things you want to support. I guess an agenda if you have one, and then, I guess one more pitch to the voters to send you back to Helena.
Thanks, Mark. In terms of energy, one of the things that several of us are looking at our increased use of solar. There is so much energy coming from the sun. For instance, most schools in eastern Montana get huge amounts of sun every day, and they tend to use energy in the daytime. Why not have solar panels on the top of every roof on an eastern Montana school? And because I'm an educator, I keep thinking of schools, but that goes for other buildings as well. Even in western Montana, even in Missoula, where we don't have that much sun, solar panels appear to pay. Maybe we need a revolving loan program, long-time repayment, but I know we can do a great deal more with solar. One of the things that I've hoped for years, and we've had 3 bills fail in the last 4 sessions, is to have a teacher's benefits pool. Right now, when teachers retire, they have nothing. Most states all around us have some kind of a benefit program for retired teachers. We don't. We're losing 75% of our graduates to states like Wyoming with better benefits, California, Oregon, Washington. Oregon just passed a plan. It's having a few startup problems. We're looking at it very closely. If it looks to be a model that could work for Montana, I may introduce a bill. Another thing that I'm hoping to do, planning definitely to do, is to start a Green Schools Caucus. It's a big project, and it has to do with long-term building plans as well as curriculum. We discover, and there's a fair body of evidence, that students who attend green schools perform as much as 20% higher. And that's not just because the building is green, it's because concepts like sustainability are woven throughout the curriculum. I'm currently working with some folks from Cal State Chico who developed the California curriculum of sustainability, which was mandated in the last California session. So a lot of good work has been done. We're hoping we can follow along.
Robin, I want to thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us, and I wish you good luck in the election. And the interesting thing about this to me, and I've been around Helena for years, is how hard these candidates work door to door, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood for months to get elected. All for the reward of getting to go to Helena for 4 months away from their family, their businesses, their loved ones, their friends, and work 6 days a week, often 12 hours a day, and that would be a short day for what Montanans would, I think, have to call short pay. And so on the 7th day, the reward is that then they get to answer to their constituents for what they didn't accomplish in those 6 days. And yet we have this high quality of Montanans who, for all of our benefit, seek out these jobs. And I do appreciate, the President appreciates it, Montana Television Communications Association appreciates it, and I hope that the voters appreciate it and will honor these candidates by going in November and voting. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.